everyone, welcome to J Honest Academy. My name is Justice. So in this video we're going to learn how to draft an asymmetric blouse, right? So without wasting time, if this is what you would like to know, please kindly watch to the end so that you will get the best part of it. So I folded my paper into two. Anything that has to do with asymmetric will have to come in full. Okay, so I folded the paper into two. From the shoulder line, this line here is going to serve as my shoulder line. To the waist length, I have 17.5. This is 17.5. From shoulder to under bust, 14.5. From shoulder to bust line, I have 10.75. Now from the bust line, I'm going to go up by 1.5 to get my armhole depth, 1.5 from bust line. This will serve as my armhole depth. Okay, so from here I have the basic neckline. 3 inches is what I'm using. 3 by 3 I've already marked here, and I'm going to connect the two together. So from the tip also I'm going to have my shoulder, which is 15 divided by 2, 7.5. For the front of my pattern, I'm going to come down, shoulder drop down by 1.5, right? And I'm going to slant the shoulder from the neck point, 1.5. And I'm going to bring it down to my armhole and connect it on a straight line. So this is to make sure that I have the same measurement, shoulder measurement here. So I will rule it on a straight line. Like so. So our pattern is almost set. So from here I'm going up by 3 inches, and I will go in by 0.75. 0.75, and on this point I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. The bust here is 40 divided by 4, that is 10, and the armhole line I will mark the same thing on the bust line, 40 divided by 10 by 4, and that will give me 10. So like this I'm going to place my curve. It might be possible to get it at once. If not, you can take it one step at a time. So I'm just going to mark this way, like this, and I'll bring this down. So from this bust point I'm going to mark my bust span, nipple to nipple divided by 2. I have 7.5 divided by 2, and that will give me 3.75. I'll mark it on the under bust, 3.75. Okay, I will just take it to the waistline so that we rule it across, up, 3.75. That is bust span divided by 2. No allowance is added to it because we are creating a pattern here. Okay, so at the waistline I'm going to mark 0.75 on 0.5 on both sides, 0.5 on both sides, and I'll connect it to the bust point. I hope my voice is loud and clear. 0.5, I'll connect it to the bust point. Okay, so this is what we have. I will now take my round waist measurement divided by 4. Waist of 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. And I'm going to connect it to this point. Now I'm going to add 1 inch for the darts I've already taken. I will add back the 1 inch here. So I'll connect it this way. Right, so our front basic pattern is ready for alteration. ready for alteration at the under bust. So to tighten the under bust, I'm going to mark 1 inch on this part from the outer leg, and I'll mark ½ inch on this part. I'll measure what I have. It's 2 inches on one line. That's okay. So I'll bring this one down. I'll not keep it so straight because of the stomach. And this one too, I'm going to bring it down. And then I'm going to make use of my curve and connect to the bust point. And on this part, I'm going to connect to the bust point. Okay, so once this is done, I'm going to open this up then, because the asymmetric one part is going to be an armhole princess dart, the other part is going to be a bustier dart. Okay, so I'll just open it up and continue from where I stopped. Remember that whatever it is that you take away from here, from the dart, you're going to add it back, otherwise it's going to be tight. So from this point, I'm going to add back after measurements. This is my actual line. Okay, so I'll cut it out. To get my bust dart, I'm going to come down by 1.5. This 1.5 is the difference between the front and the back from the bust line. From the bust line, I'll come down by 1.5. I'm going to connect it from the bust point to this point. Now I have my tracing wheel because I need what is here to show on the other part. So I'm going to trace everything here out. Everything is going to be traced so that it appears on the other side. Welcome soulmates to the alteration of this bodice. So now that I've opened it up, I'm going to determine where my neckline is going to be. And this is where I want it to be. This is 3.5 above the bust point. 3.5 above the bust point. That is where I want it to be. Now on this part, I'm going to have a bustier. On this other part, I'm going to have an armhole princess dart. So this is what I'm going to do. On this part that I have the armhole princess dart, I'm going to connect to my armhole, to wherever I want it to be. That is where I'm going to connect it. Almost on a straight line, but not that straight. Okay, so once I've done that, to this place, I'm going to come down by 1.5, which is to tighten the armhole. I'll come down by 1.5 and I'll still connect it to the bust point. I'll connect it to the bust point. Now, because I came down, I tightened it by 1.5. I'm going to raise it up by 1.5. I'll raise it up by 1.5, and that is where my new armhole is going to begin. So I'm going to redraw my new armhole from this 1.5 that I raised it up. So this is now my new armhole. And of course, I'm going to blend this bust point so that it doesn't become so pointy. I want to find a way that it will not be too sharp. Now don't bother, what is here is not going to affect your measurement. After all, you're going to be adding sewing allowance. Okay, so this part is taken care of. Now the next part we're going to do is to cut the asymmetric to how we want it. But first of all, I'm going to connect this part to the midpoint of the shoulder so that I can mark out where the tightening is going to be. Okay, so I'm going to tighten this upper part a bit. I want to use 0.5 or 0.75 to tighten it on both sides. 0.75 on both sides, and I'm going to connect it to the bust point and connect this other part to the bust point. Okay, so this is what we have on this part. Now for the asymmetric on this area, I'm going to divide this shoulder into two. You can decide to use a straight line, you can decide to curve it a little. I'm just going to decide the part that I want. I don't want it to be too straight, and I don't want it to be too curvy either. So I think something like this is okay for me. So I'll connect it to this point. Now I'm going to equally connect. I can leave it like this. If you want it to be curvy, you can also curve it just the way you want it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to raise this part up by 0.25. If you want to be so sure, you can just fold it over and let it align with this. You can see that it's a bit higher than this. Okay, so you can put it together like this and then use your curve to trace it out properly just the way you want it to be. So I can possibly do something like this. If I don't want it to be too sharp, I need it to be a bit curvy, I can do something of this nature. This is just to help me align it properly. You can see the way it is. So this is how I'm going to leave it. So this part now is going to be, remember this line is of no use, you can decide to clean it. We've gotten what we wanted. So this part is going to be for the net, and this other part is going to be my fashion fabric, the whole of this part. And then I will attach my sleeve and we are good to go. So what I'm going to do now, I'll cut here open and close my bust dart. After which I'm going to dismantle everything the way it is, cut it out and transfer to fabric. So after cutting, this is what we have. You can see the upper part, the yoke, and the two sides, and they're symmetric. So the back is just normal. Okay, if you have a back pattern already, it will be easier for you, but it's just normal. So transfer to fabric. This is the lace together with the underlay. I used the satin. Then on the satin, I applied stay. Okay, so that's the same applies to the back. So I want to cut it into two, and that's it. Okay, so the next thing is to put them together and join it, right? So whenever you're cutting a lace, you're going to have an underlay and then a lining. So you're going to cut everything together, the same pattern. This is the yoke. All right, thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.